Thanksgiving dinner turned into a battle. How a hidden inheritance exposed the truth and changed everything. It was supposed to be like any other Thanksgiving. The same faded wallpaper in the dining room, the same old turkey that Mom managed to burn every year, the same uncomfortable silence hanging in the air. But this year was different. Grandpa wasn't there. He'd passed away just 3 months ago, and since then, everything had changed. Not just the house, but the people in it. The very foundation that kept us together had crumbled, and we were left picking up the pieces, some more willing than others. I was 30 years old, sitting at the table where I'd sat since I was a child. But this time, I didn't feel like a child. I wasn't the quiet, compliant son anymore. This time, I was something else entirely. Across from me sat Laura, my older sister. She was 32, always the favorite, always the loud one, always the one who got what she wanted. And that day, she was sitting there, wearing a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. She was angry. She was always angry. I'd never understood why she hated me so much, but I had come to accept it. Her voice broke the silence. "Let's be thankful we're not as pathetic as some people at this table," she said, her tone dripping with sarcasm. The room fell dead quiet, every pair of eyes shifting to me. I could feel them all looking at me, waiting for my reaction. And that's when something inside me snapped. I didn't even think before I spoke. I smiled, a calm, controlled smile, nothing like the nervous, uncertain grins I used to force. "Pathetic," I said, my voice steady. "Grandpa left me the house. You're just squatting in it." The words hit the room like a punch to the gut. Silence. Complete silence. I could feel every eye on me, the room holding its breath. For a second, even Laura seemed stunned. But I wasn't finished. I leaned back in my chair, took a slow sip of water, and let the tension build. Then, in a voice so cold it sent chills through the room, I added, "Hope you enjoy trying to find a different place to stay." The truth was, Grandpa's will wasn't just a piece of paper, it was the final word. The house, the land, everything was mine. The documents were signed, the transfer was official, and nobody could change it now. Not Laura, not Mom, not any of them. Laura's face went blank, and I could see the anger in her eyes start to rise. But there was nothing she could do. I was in control now. I'd always been the quiet one, the one who took the insults, the one who kept my head down. But not anymore. Not today. For a moment, everything was still. Then, Aunt Susan let out a shaky laugh, Uncle Brian shifted uncomfortably in his seat, and Mom's face turned pale. But Laura... Laura just stared at me, her gaze like a dagger. Her pride was wounded, and I could see it. For once, she had no words. But she wasn't the only one who was angry. The truth of it all started to sink in for the rest of them. Grandpa had never really cared about the petty dramas, the favorites, the feuds. He knew exactly what was going on. He knew that this family was built on shallow bonds and selfishness. And so, he had trusted me with the house, not out of favoritism, but because he knew I was the one who could handle it. The dinner dragged on after that. The mood was thick, suffocating, as if no one dared to breathe too loudly. They all pretended to enjoy their food, but I could see the tension in their shoulders, the way they wouldn't meet my eyes. Laura sat there, fuming. Her smile was gone now, replaced with a look of rage that was so intense, I almost wondered if she might throw something at me. But she didn't. She just sat there, holding her glass, gripping it so hard that her knuckles turned white. She was furious, but she knew, deep down, that she couldn't do a thing. By the time dessert arrived, the tension had reached its peak. It was just the usual sad pumpkin pie, split down the middle like the family itself. My mom, voice trembling, tried to speak, but I wasn't having it anymore. "Patrick, maybe we should talk later," she said softly, looking at me with those tired eyes. I could see the guilt written all over her face. She was torn, between the loyalty to her daughter and the reality of what was happening. But I wasn't in the mood to talk. I wiped my mouth slowly, stood up from the table, and looked her dead in the eye. "I'll let you know when I'm ready." As I walked toward the door, I passed Laura. She was standing by the fireplace, surrounded by relatives who were too scared to speak up, too scared to go against her. She gave me one last glare, but I didn't flinch. I smiled, a real smile, not the fake ones we used to exchange at family dinners. A smile that said everything. "Happy Thanksgiving," I said, loud enough for everyone to hear. And then I left. As I drove home that night, the weight of everything finally hit me. I wasn't just standing up for myself. I was standing up for the memory of Grandpa, the man who had given everything for this family, only to watch it tear itself apart. He knew it. He saw the fakeness. And he knew that in the end, the people who claimed to love him were only interested in what they could take. I wasn't going to be the one who let that happen. Not anymore. And if that meant losing them all, so be it. Because in the end, family isn't about blood, it's about who stands by you when the world falls apart. Grandpa understood that. He knew that in a world full of greed and lies, the ones who truly matter are the ones who choose to protect what's right, even when it costs them everything. Maybe it's selfish, maybe it's cold. But sometimes, doing the right thing means standing alone. And that's exactly what I'm going to do.